even suggested that we kind of build off that architecture. We think a new building about the same square footage as of the Lake Haven property could be built directly across from that patio from the brew pub, and we could draw retail into that space, a new restaurant. We talked about you could have new shops that could jump in there. There are other, you know, it's not a lot of new retail space, but we think it could be really critical retail space. And so that would be on this building here, jumping back. And so again, bringing everybody, you know, bringing people down here, activating this space, right? Creating a place where we have people staying, we have people enjoying special events, we have the community space, we have the, it could be a chapel, the amphitheater, the campfire, the movie theater, the multi-purpose community gathering point, all linked back into new retail, new restaurants, and a new place for our visitors to stay. And that's what we have for Ellis Point.
Thanks, Aaron. So let's take a look across the river and the harbor inlet, and there's Fisherman's Point. So the first thing I want to point out is the scale of what's there now. I think the Corps is probably going to be there for a while, and we all have mixed feelings about the Corps, but the Corps can be a good neighbor. With the Corps comes a lot of maintenance obligations and things like that, and that the community benefits from. Is anyone here tonight who is involved with the property of the former boat facility? Nobody's here. Well, they should be. It's a great opportunity. So similar, building on what everyone has said to date, you come in off the lake and the harbor, you look down from the courthouse, you look down from the highway, you have this phenomenal view of water. See the historic river, the natural environment that's associated with it, the new bridge, the history of the old ferry dock, the potential of new ferry docks, very active and very positive, good reputation, high usage of the existing marinas, and a lot of boating services. To repeat the first comment, and this was talked about the other night, we all like to dream and we all like to change things. That's good. We all need to grow, but we can grow in different ways. And what hit one of my nerves last night is to actually hear people say, yeah, we have a really healthy boating community. We're a boating draw. So, you know, maybe we shouldn't paint it a different color. What can we do that celebrates and builds on everything that's there today, except for a vacant property owner? Oh, look at that. How do I turn it back on? Darn pockets. Thank you. So this is a sketch that came up, I don't know, it's at 10:30, 11:30, 12 o'clock noon. This started to gel. You'll recognize a lot of the context of it. You see the Corps' tug tied up there, Protocol, Harbor Express, and then the Main Street Bridge, the municipal marina. On the upper left edge of the image, that's basically the federal property. Then on the top, you see the old Badger Dock, and the entry into the harbor, flanked by the old Coast Guard station. So what you don't see now, and it's hard to tell, but in the middle where it says mixed use is roughly a building and a pad that's about 250 feet by 250 feet. So instead of seeing that big white box, you see a cluster of smaller structures that could create kind of a village, if you will, a little shanty village, and they're mixed use. So here again, a lot of things you heard before could involve some kind of lodging. It could involve a youth sailing program. Afraid to touch this thing, the right one. Yeah. So it would be all tied together with a series of small spaces, outdoor areas that you could have cafe space, space to read. You could have office use here. And it's all, you see little passageways, the walkways, the peekaboos. They focus on views out, views are focused in, and then the main axis and the main focus then terminates on a public pier. The public pier then becomes the main attraction for transient dockage. People are coming for the weekend or the week or 2 hours. An opportunity to bring in some bigger boats, and you put them down by the end. And we all like to go run down as a kid. I'd always run down to the waterfront to see the big military boats, the big yachts, and that was kind of exciting. People love to look at other people's boats, showcase them, see them from the other side, from Ellis Point. What's a little different from the shoreline that you have today, and talking to the youth, they wanted to connect the area where the treatment areas and the natural area. So I thought, wouldn't it be cool if you could come from the campground or those two old piers in a kayak and come over to the island, or the point, I mean. So you could take and create a perched beach, and that could become a sailing beach for a sailing program, where you put your scows there and everything, or smaller boats. You could have your paddle craft there, go back up the river, whatever. In addition to this, then, you change and modify into public spaces. So I have my version of a movie theater. You have two big yard arms that are oversized, those two dots, and you hang a sail between it. So on Thursday nights, you take your boat out there and you go to the drive-in in your boat. You get smartphone applications, Bluetooth speakers, bring your blanket in the lawn, and you go to the movies on the point. What do you think? So, with the chemistry of the younger generation that was energizing us, and the survey, and we heard one comment referring to culverts. Well, last night, I think we heard about 5 comments, and this morning we heard about another 5. McDonald's, the McDonald's get coming up. But it wasn't McDonald's, the brand, that they wanted. They wanted a cool place to go and hang and have a cheeseburger and a milkshake. So what a better idea than put a diner out there. So you have dinner at the diner, so I spelled dinner instead of diner. But you could see, imagine looking at the point, seeing the diner, complimenting the other facilities downtown, the people that come to visit, people that fish, the transient, the charter fishermen, the seasonal marina. What a great place to hang out on a Friday night after a sail. Have a fish fry or something, or some chowder on a February. So now we've got some food, we've got some shanties, and these can be 2 or 3 stories. And again, these are all approximately within the borders of the existing slab and building. So now you've increased visitation, increased boating. We'll get some public money for a public pier. We'll get some public money to help put transient dockage in. We'll get some water quality studies. We'll get involved in the beach construction. And now we've totally redefined Fisherman's Point. What does this thing look like? And what were some of the inspirations? So if you go down to Sheboygan, this isn't Sheboygan. This is across the sea. So if you go to the Scandinavian countries, there are a lot of these nice little shanty towns. And they're 2 stories, 1 story, people live there, they build boats, they fish. But this is kind of the idea of the texture and the scale. There's a rich history of shanty towns and fishing villages around the world. This are the new shanties in Sheboygan. So you get businesses downstairs, living upstairs. There's one that's an architect. There's 2 or 3 taverns. There's an ecology sports where you can you can rent a bicycle, you can rent a kayak. You can live down here, and people bring their families all the time. So these are slowly fitting in, and they were inspired by the shanties across the river. And shanties have a life in the wintertime. So this whole idea of taking Fisherman's Point and making it a 12-month destination. I love going up to the polar circle. I love going to Scandinavia, Canada. There's something magical about that sea, that lake, that river, that ice. It's a totally different experience, and why not have it here in your own town? So with that, we're going to continue the discussion of marketing and how we let other people know we're excited about these ideas.
Yeah, so it's one thing to build it. It's a second thing to put some muscle behind the investment involved in building by speaking to the larger community and the larger region about that. We do have a lot of ideas for marketing and how to make marketing effective and easy and part of what goes on with the business community. I'm going to focus on just a small bit of that, though, and just kind of really one case study, one or two case studies here, because I don't want to take up a lot of time. So two strategies, main strategies. The first one is low-cost, high-impact social media marketing. Over 75% of the population in the U.S. right now is on Facebook, equal numbers of men and women. Who's the fastest growing population on Facebook? Which age category?
Seniors.
Boomers and seniors, yes. Yeah. And our younger people, our very young people, are still on Facebook because grandma and grandpa want to see a presence and want to see their smiling faces, and they update their pages relatively routinely. But it is the boomers, the 55, 65 and older, that are incredibly active on Facebook, and that's the population that has the time, the money, the will. And our retirees today, our 50s and olders, are healthier and more active than they have ever been in our history as a country. So we reach all ages with that marketing. It is incredibly inexpensive to do. It is not television advertising. It's not radio advertising. It is easy, high target, low cost. So that's one strategy. The second is to leverage existing assets, and there's a lot we can do with the waterfront, but I just wanted to give a few ideas for leveraging weddings. There's a whole host of ideas we have that we'll give the committee on leveraging the waterfront as well. So paid social media advertising, three major categories. First, promoting Kewaunee as a destination in general, one of the last authentic lakeshore towns. Lake Michigan, like it used to be, like you remember it as a kid, like we all love and miss. It's still here, it's still vibrant, it's still as exciting as it's ever been. Second, the wedding industry here. I was talking to Amy at the coffee shop this morning, and this phenomenal booking 2 years in advance for weddings at Lake Haven. The fact that the Airbnbs, the hotels are filling up on weekends because we've got these out-of-town residents who are coming to start their lives here. And think about the commitment that is when a young couple decides that Kewaunee is the place that they are going to make their commitment to one another, the place that they are going to start their family. They are making, even if they're not residents of the community, they are making a lifelong memory and a commitment. They will come back to this community year after year after year. So lakeshore weddings, second. A third thing, when you search Kewaunee Marina, some version of this picture comes up. There's always a lot of fish and a lot of people smiling. So who was there and what did they catch today? An amazing thing. I am the world's worst fisher person. I'm coming to Kewaunee so I can be guaranteed I'm going to catch something next time I go out. So great lake, great fishing right here. So we're going to promote these three things. Marketing weddings. How do we do something like that? How do we leverage what we have? What does that mean to leverage what we have here? If we've got 2 years worth of weddings booked up, that means there's 2 years worth of very predictable economic opportunities related to weddings. If you've ever had to pay for a wedding, you know they are costly, and you can get some of that money back if you happen to live here. So one idea, and this is not a low-cost idea, this is a medium-cost idea. If the Chamber of Commerce has a wedding coordinator that when somebody books a wedding at Lake Haven, particularly if they're from out of town, contacts them and says, we're so glad you chose us as the community for your wedding, we'd like to help you by showing you and sharing with you some of the things that you can do here. Well, what does that mean? We can provide you with sample itineraries for a couple of days. We can provide you itineraries that are a week long, so your out-of-town guests can not just spend a day or two here for your wedding, but if they want a vacation here and they want to fish, they want a boat, they want a kayak, they want to maybe go take a tour of Lambeau and spend the rest of their day here, we can make that happen. Plugins, easy to do. You can just upload them onto the wedding sites that people now have on the Knot and other wedding venues for personal wedding websites with links to all of the amenities in the area. pre-planned add-ons to upsell, and that's such a marketing term, but to upsell community amenities. In other parts of the country, on the Friday afternoon of a wedding, the bridesmaids get together and have a luncheon with the bride and the women from her family. That's not a tradition we have in Wisconsin, but we could start it here. We could have bridesmaids luncheons here. What do the men do when they are, not that we segregate by men and women in weddings, but we kind of do, they can go fishing. So we'll book a charter fishing. Then we can get creative. Beautiful beach. If someone wanted to cater a picnic and put up a tent and provide some kites, we can have a family gathering over that course of that week. So lots of different things. And then as the couple's approaching their first anniversary, the Chamber of Commerce sends them back, congratulations on your first anniversary. Come back and visit us again. Maybe we follow that up every few years to remind them that they started here and we want them to come back and continue living part of their life here. Tug Ludington, I just threw this in because I think this is one of the most phenomenal. This is not the Tug Ludington, but this could be the Tug Ludington. Using this as an emblem of the community, decorating it for the holidays, using it as a center point, commemorating D-Day by having a ceremony honoring veterans next to the Tug Ludington and talking about their history, their shared history together. So there's a lot of these things that are here that we can leverage and we can really show how special the community is. With that, a lot of ideas here. I'm going to hand it over to Will Cronin, and he's going to talk about implementation and next steps. Thank you, Will.
Thank you, Kristen. So we've seen a lot in a very short period of time. And one thing that kept coming up in our discussions with the community work group was, everyone kind of knew we were going to come up with a lot of stuff, but there was a concern that we might have so much that we wouldn't be sure where to start. So I have taken a swing at putting together a very rough outline of perhaps the implementation process, or the phases, if you will, of getting this going, and then we'll talk a little bit more about next steps in general. But so I just want to emphasize again that this is a very rough outline, but it might give you an idea of some steps we can take that would make a little bit of sense. So before we do anything, we got to lay some groundwork. We would maybe recommend the community explore the creation of a waterfront business district or similar entity to oversee implementation, probably with paid staff. There's a lot going on here, and we want to make sure that the community has the capacity to implement this over an extended period of time. Secure a waterfront easement, if possible, from Volrath to get a grade separated walking path down the beach from Ellis Point to Selner Park. Okay. Pedestrianize Ellis Street east of Lake Street, so that's what we were talking about with the plaza. Just get that done. Remove the equipment from the city garage on, I had it as Klockner, now Ellis Point. That's the new, we're not going to call it Klockner anymore. At Ellis Point, make your legal preparations for reuse of the portion of the building you're willing to move on with. And begin the process of reacquiring the Fisherman's Village site from the entity that is holding it right now and has been holding it for a period of time and not doing anything with it. Then we move into phase one, quick wins. Quick wins were important to our group. Extend the Onopi Trail through the Ellis Point site to the Selner Pioneer Park Beach, and you get around Volrath either via that waterfront easement and or Lake Street. Lake Street works really well for this too. So if you're going down Lake Street, all you have to do is some lighting, some signage, some markings, or you're going to have to put up probably a grade separated path over the riprap along the water in front of Volrath. But in either case, get around it and then you can have this beautiful big arcing path all the way from the Onopi to the beach. And you can do that relatively quickly, and it's relatively inexpensive. Prepare the city garage for reuse as a food service place. Ideally, maybe a brew pub, but it doesn't have to be. And market it on spec. So get it cleaned out, get it ready, and get it on the market. Make some site improvements, so signage, parking, and lighting to the Onopi landing site for use as the city's primary Onopi trailhead, and also the kayak, canoe, paddle livery area there. And then as Kristen was talking about market those existing resources that we have, and especially leveraging those Lake Haven weddings. Excuse me. Phase 2. Go ahead and build your amphitheater on Ellis Point. Clear the Fisherman's Village site and prepare it for new construction. Lake Haven Hall improvements and expansion. So work on the acoustics. We heard repeatedly that the acoustics at Lake Haven maybe aren't great. Maybe there aren't, maybe we could use a kitchen there or a better kitchen. There's a better restrooms, things like that. And then get that Ellis Street pedestrian plaza constructed and do some streetscaping. Maybe, things like that. Phase 3 and 4. Phase 3, we're talking about actually beginning construction of the big stuff. The Fisherman's Village and the diner. All the awesome mixed use on Ellis Point that Aaron talked about. And then Phase 4 plus, dredging those Onapee Landing inlets to permit docking of small boats, which will permit then bigger boats to dock at the city marina, pending those improvements, et cetera, et cetera. So that's just kind of a rough outline. Projects of opportunity. So these are things that don't really fit in any phase per se, but as opportunity arises, you could do them. Amenity improvements at campground, showers, expand that fish cleaning station, put in the playground, tree planting, preservation of the tug, which we all really like the tug. It's pretty cool. Move the gazebo. This was Todd's pet project. Move the gazebo to a location where it might be better utilized. Okay. And then construct those yellow buildings around town as funding permits. So build those, build that community infrastructure out all around town and maintain that brand that hey, these are community areas. A few more strategies: facade and landscape renovation revolving loan fund. So the city establishes a revolving loan fund to help businesses redo their facades with based on design guidelines. Pardon me. You have a review committee, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe a tax increment financing district around the waterfront. Review your zoning. Does it force suburban development and explore form-based codes for downtown? Explore and choose alternative business models. So maybe a community-supported restaurant modeled on a community-supported agriculture or something like that. Nonprofit community services. Example would be Lake Haven Hall, but those are really popular right now and for good reason. So more of those maybe. And then, of course, public-private partnerships. Always leverage public-private partnerships when you can. We'll talk, this is a much bigger project than that, but we identified as a key need some sort of waterfront business district or Main Street program, just to make sure the community has the capacity to do this stuff. We have a lot of very dedicated, very high-quality volunteers, and the folks on the payroll now are excellent, but it's a big project over a long period of time, so it's worth looking at this and potentially hiring somebody when the funding's there. And you need those skills in grant writing and fund development, historical preservation, planning, that kind of thing. And just some partners to perhaps engage in the fundraising side. WEDC, the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, Wisconsin Coastal Management, Wisconsin DNR, our friends at the EPA, historical preservation entities, private donors, and the like. So now I'm going to get into the steps of change. Talk about a shared vision. We have no vision. Groups are moving in many directions. Well, that's not us. We're already moving in one direction in general. We have a, I don't know which phase we're at exactly, probably close to buy-in, but we have a plan made without community involvement? No, we've got that, so we're at the buy-in stage probably. We've got the planning consulting community, we've got energy used, selling vision. We want to get our momentum together. So this is just a way to think about where our vision is at as time goes on. So a gentleman that Steve is a big fan of, John Cotter, has talks about change this way. You establish urgency. You brought us here, right? Forming coalitions. You formed a committee for community design. Create a vision. Oh. We created a vision for Kewaunee today, i.e. all of us, communicating the vision we started tonight. So, now we need to empower action. Who in here has the passion, who has the commitment, and who has the ability and skills? You have an opportunity just outside the door to sign up, okay? So be thinking about that. Planning and creating wins for the community. Use Kewaunee's existing community groups to tackle these projects. And there are, to the extent possible. If an existing group can't do what needs to be done, create a new one. Use our suggestions tonight to start progress, make those quick connections, and then produce still more change. Make Kewaunee a leader for community placemaking. I will tell you, this community is awesome. The amenities here are phenomenal. That beach, my wife is from Petoskey, Michigan. I told somebody getting on the bus yesterday, if this beach was within 30 miles of Petoskey, there would never be a parking spot open. It's amazing. So what does it mean to you? You brought us here. Together we've laid the foundation for community change. Now it's up to you to build the Kewaunee you want. Small steps are great. That's a lot of distance you saw tonight. So small steps are important, but you got to keep walking. We're going to be around to help. Claire will be there. Where's Claire? There's Claire. Todd, community development specialist. We'll do a formal check-in much sooner than 6 months from now. And they can connect you to UW Extension specialists and centers all around. So, with that, I guess I get to wrap it up. And I say thank you very much for your time. After this, please head out into the hallway. You can review the site plans there. You can speak with the folks who drew them, ask questions, provide blistering criticism. And you can also sign up to support this project on an ongoing basis. So is there anything I missed, Todd? All right. Thank you very much, and we'll see you out in the hallway. Appreciate your time tonight.